Boker Tov. Hope everybody is well rested. Returning back this morning for day 2 of Rosh Hashanah. The Torah reading this morning is found on page 103. It is the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. And what I like to do, sort of become a thing, is to hear what questions would you like to ask about this terrifying story? What questions, when you read the story, you can take a moment and look at it. You may need to refresh your memory. The good news is that he doesn't get sacrificed in the end. The bad news is that God says to him, please sacrifice your son. But what are the questions that come up for you when you read this story each year? Over here? Isaac. Did Abraham, by the way, I want to note that our first questioner was Isaac, right? Very appropriately. Did Abraham pass or fail the test, right? Did he pass or fail the test? On the one hand, if you read the language at the end of the story, God seems to be pleased to know that Abraham has not withheld his only son and therefore sort of renews the covenant, renews the promise. But there are indicators, if not from a divine perspective, that from Isaac's perspective, he failed the test. Because if you pay very special attention, you note that Isaac and Abraham, the story tells us, go off together. The narrator is sure to tell us that they walk together for the sacrifice, but Isaac and Abraham do not return together. That it is Abraham who returns, and we don't know exactly where Isaac goes. So did he pass or fail the test? Maybe from a parent's perspective, especially, he failed. Yeah?
Is Abraham testing God as much as God is testing Abraham?
Is Abraham testing God as much as God is testing Abraham? Is this a case of chicken, right, where Abraham, and by the way, we're going to come back to this. There are commentators who say so. Is this sort of a case where Abraham is pushing God to say, if this is what you're asking, I'm really going to get almost all the way there, and let's see whether a historical answer to that would probably be many gods in the ancient Near East did that, right? And yet here we have a story. I'm sorry, say it again. Okay, so Debbie is noticing that this scene is coming right before, at the end of Parshat Vayera, and the very next thing which happens in the Torah is we are told about the death of Sarah. Okay? And over in his classroom during his years as a professor at Boston University, and Ariel Berger writes about Wiesel. He says, in Elie Wiesel's book, Messengers of God, Wiesel argues Abraham's acquiescence to God's command is in fact an act of protest. As you said, it was playing chicken, right? It was an act of protest, an ironic obedience. And I'm going to quote Wiesel here. As though Abraham had said, I defy you, Lord. I shall submit to your will, but let us see whether you go to the end. Whether you shall remain passive and silent when the life of my son, who is also your son, is at stake. That's Wiesel. These are not, but this Berger explaining Wiesel, he says, these are not the words of a compliant interpreter of Scripture. They are the words of a rebel. The person of faith is playing a game of chicken with God, waiting to see who will fall first. Again, quoting Wiesel, and God changed his mind and relented. Abraham won. That was why God sent an angel to revoke the order and congratulate him, as opposed to God appearing directly to Abraham, as he did earlier. He himself was too embarrassed to show up. In Wiesel's formulation, the role of a person of faith is to do nothing less than defeat God in a contest of ethics, again and again. Let me read that last sentence, and I hope it's something we think about as we go through the year, and we think about people of faith, that our role, the role of a person of faith, is to do nothing less than defeat God in a contest of ethics, again and again. The Torah reading this morning again begins page 103 in the Lev Shalem Masor.